Is it already time for a new season of anime? Damn, it's almost like I spent all of last season in a constant rush to get to the next ReZero episode. Now, the fall 2020 anime season doesn't have any huge names like ReZero attached to it, but there's still plenty of fun to be had here. And I really do mean that. Sometimes digging through the huge pile of new seasonal anime can be kind of a slog, but so far all of the shows have just been really, really fun. So in the spirit of fun, let's start off with a show from Dogakobo. You know Dogakobo. They do all those cute shows like Gabriel Dropout and New Game. So I knew right off the bat that their new show Maojo de Oyasumi was going to be another ball of gooey, wholesome moe. So yeah, there are a few casualties involved in bringing us this comedy about a kidnapped princess trying to get some sleep in a Demon King's castle. The humor is a little dark, but it still brings that classic cute charm that Dogakobo is known for. Interestingly enough, this is not the only show that Dogakobo is doing this season, as they've also brought us Ikebukuro Westgate Park, a decidedly uncute show about a gang of guys trying to clean up the streets of Ikebukuro. It's nice to see the studio branch out from time to time, and the concept and characters on this one are pretty cool. The main character Makoto seems to have some depth to his character that I'd like to see played out a little bit more, and they're already teasing a larger mystery that will connect the somewhat standalone first episode to the rest of the series. I will say, in a show that seems to want to be very dynamic, the animation is just a little underwhelming. I would love to see a little bit more of the traditional Dogakobo polish, even if this is outside of their normal cute show pigeonhole. I mean, this guy's kinda cute, so I guess there's that. Keeping with crimes and mysteries, Yukoku no Moriarty is a very interesting proposal that already has me hooked as of the first episode. This anime centers around William Moriarty, famed antagonist to Sherlock Holmes, as he helps others dispense a unique brand of justice as a criminal consultant. Much like the first episode of Ikebukuro Westgate Park, the first episode of this anime is kind of a standalone mystery that helps set the tone for the rest of the series. I did, however, think that this one was just a little bit better paced and more consistent tonally. With Moriarty set up as the gray moral protagonist, I am very interested to see how Sherlock Holmes will play into the story when he inevitably shows up. So when the first images of Iwakakaru were released, I immediately knew that I would be watching the show. But I'll be honest, I think it's pretty weak. The animation is a little janky, I don't really love any of the characters, and the writing gets the job done but not much more. However, consider the following. Thank you for your consideration. I will be continuing this series. Tonikaku Kawaii came highly recommended to me from readers of the manga, and I can now definitively say that this show is literally weaponized cuteness. I was a little wary of this because the premise seems like a drama setup. A girl accepts the confession of a guy she just met on the condition that he marry her, only to ghost him for several years and then turn up with marriage forms. Like, I was waiting the whole episode for some kind of ulterior motive because romance anime have conditioned me to believe that nothing good ever happens. Thanks, Rent-A-Girlfriend, Scum's Wish, Domestic Girlfriend, Citrus, wait a minute. Anyway, so far as I can tell, Tonikaku Kawaii really is just what it says it is. It's a sweet anime about a newly married couple who knows nothing about each other, and it is adorable. So if you tire out of edgy anime and you need a break to watch something sickeningly sweet, this is where you should be looking. Wait, did someone say edgy anime? I'm Standing on a Million Lives fills 2 slots in seasonal anime bingo for being both the obligatory isekai and the obligatory edgy show. And while it isn't the same level of needlessly grimdark as something like Future Diary, I can pretty clearly see that the main character has some very edgy tendencies. The story centers on a group of Japanese high schoolers who, could have guessed, that get sucked into a fantasy world to complete quests for a horrifying entity in exchange for answers about the new world and a chance to return. The only problem? Edgy main character McGee does not actually want to return. You know, I actually might end up enjoying this one. At least so far, this isn't like a power fantasy isekai because part of the whole premise is that the main character is nerfed by being given the class of farmer. There's a cool system in place where they can die and revive as much as they want to so long as they don't all die simultaneously, and it has odd bits of comedy that I vibe with. I'm going to reserve judgment for a few more episodes, and while I don't think this will end up being amazing, I do think it might end up being pretty enjoyable. Speaking of shows that are enjoyable despite their mediocrity, our Last Crusade is not something that I thought I was going to enjoy as much as I do. Long-standing war of non-mages versus mages, yada yada, generic tsundere love interest, yada yada, but you know, the animation for the action scenes is pretty good. I like the dynamic of the protagonist's small company of fighters. The mix of modern and magical elements in the world is unique. Both sides of the conflict have a point, so there isn't a clear villain yet. And I happen to love tsunderes. So, yeah, I really like this. We aren't breaking new ground here or anything, but the second the first episode was over, I set a timer for the next one to come out. Generic? Maybe. Fun? Hell yes. So, I am not at all the target audience for Yashahime. I have not seen Inuyasha, which this series is a sequel to, and the only reason that I wanted to watch this at all was because I thought the trailer looked pretty fun. So bear that in mind as the perspective that I'm coming from. The first episode throws a ton of names and relations at you that I'm sure make perfect sense if you watched Inuyasha, but for new viewers, it's kind of a lot. Especially since I get the feeling that most of the characters in this first episode aren't going to be around much. Episode 1 really seems to be fan service for people who watched Inuyasha, getting the chance to see the characters that they loved a little older and back in action, and I think that's great. But I didn't care. Because Yashahime is actually about the kids of some of these characters, who show up in the frame narrative of the first episode, and the rest of the series is going to revolve around them. And I was actually very interested in these new characters. And as a result, a little disappointed that they played so small of a role in the first episode. What I'm getting at is that this series is very hard to judge from just one episode, especially coming from someone who is brand new to the franchise. However, I think that the animation brings a nice sense of nostalgia while still being modernized. I love the character designs of the new characters, and the whole show is interesting enough for me as a new viewer that I'm going to keep watching it. And lastly, we have the reboot of Higurashi. Some of you know, Higurashi is one of my all-time favorite anime. That said, it's pretty dated, and it has its fair share of issues. This new adaptation is being handled by Studio Passione, and I was very interested to see how a studio that took such drastic liberties with gratuitous content in interspecies for viewers would handle the classic horror anime. Luckily, my expectations were exceeded. No punches have been pulled, and I think that in many ways this is going to be a much more visceral adaptation without going so dark that it becomes unpalatable. The pacing is very similar to the original, but the new character designs are fantastic. They're a little cutesy, which really accentuates the series' trademark shifts between slice of life and dark horror. Not to mention, they brought back the original opening, which is every bit as haunting now as it was back in 2006. I know we're only one episode in, but I am blown away. This is everything that I wanted. So far, the running theme for this season is I want more. Even though none of these series are particularly novel, after watching the first episode of each of them, I had so much fun that I was itching for the next one to be out. I am just having fun, which isn't something that I can say every season. Do I think anything this season is going to be a 10 out of 10? The only one that I think has the potential is Higurashi, but I'm a huge fan of the series and I'm biased, so realistically, no. However, I still really enjoy watching all of these shows even though they may not be critically fantastic. This is the season of popcorn shows, and I am 100% down with that. If you're excited about any of these shows, let me know down in the comments. And hop over to the Silverware Drawer, the official Discord server for this channel, for ongoing discussions on new episodes as they release. I'll drop a link for that down in the description. I'm also streaming live group watches of Higurashi, so if you were going to watch the show anyway, come by and watch it with the rest of us. And follow me on Twitter at FourteenSpoons so that you can know when those live streams are going to happen. Until next time, I have been Spoons, and thank you for watching.